see it. Well, I saw it. There we are. Hi guys. I'm here for chapter 3. It's a kind of a short chapter, so I figured I'd get through it and get it out to you guys. Today's chapter is Independent. And let me just go ahead and read it. Independence Day. Who do you think you are? What do you think is? If you think you're a loser, you are. If you think you're a winner, you are. An individual is indivisible. Individuality is your essence. It is who you are, all that you are. Know yourself. Individual. Change is growth. Curve is change. Everyone is different. That's the point. Everyone must change to grow. Change takes time. I am he, as you are he, as you are me, and we are all together. That's the Beatles song. Embrace diversity. What am I? Who am I? Where am I? And why am I? What am I? Who am I? Where am I? Why am I? To me, these 4 questions relate to the 4 aspects of I. The question, what am I, is answered in instinct, or the body. Who am I is answered in intelligence, or the mind. Where am I is answered in intuition, or the soul. And why am I is answered in intention, or the spirit. Here are a couple of I words to keep in mind. Independent. Independent means not dependent on another. I am he, as you are he, as you are I, and we are all together. Depending on self is depending on source. Be all that you can be. Iceberg. We all know that most of an iceberg is below the surface. Most of I is below the surface too. If you want to know who you are, you've got to look under the surface. 4 dimensions. We exist in 4 dimensions. Superstring theory proposes 10 dimensions, 4 of which are knowable. The rest are curled up into regions unknowable to us. For our purpose, we'll focus on the 4 that we can. 4 or 3.5. As energy becomes mass, it takes shape. The simplest form of 3-dimensional 3D mass is a tetrahedron. Therefore, in the 3rd dimension, a photon is expressed as a tetrahedron. This is the most basic building block of our perception of our universe. There is only one photon, which is the manifestation of the one. Infinite perceptions of this one photon create the hologram of all that is. Time is the 4th dimension. Apparently, we can perceive 4D spacetime. Well, some would call it 3.5D. 4 eyes, instinct, intellect, intuition, and intention make you an individual. And there's an illustration, just so you guys can see. It's just 4 eyes. Anyway, every human is made of these 4 aspects, body, mind, soul, and spirit. Move past the triune view of yourself and understand the tetragrammaton, the 4 Hebrew letters that represent the name of God. It is the 4th aspect that allows the full motion picture. The 2D view of 3D is flat and incomplete. Put yourself in motion to have 3D view of 4D. At this point, it's good to have a model of the tetrahedron ready. Always keep those handy. Introducing introspection. Take your model tetrahedron, hold it, and look at it. You only have 2 eyes. Even with stereoscopic vision, you cannot see the whole tetrahedron at once. There is always at least one side missing. Perhaps a person with an activated 3rd eye could see the whole. Rotate the tetrahedron. It is only with motion and time that you will gain knowledge of the whole. It takes time. There's deep thought there. Tetrahedron photon. Before the beginning, the one was nothing and nowhere, self-aware and lonely. The one is creator and so creates light. The basic unit of light is a photon. A photon has a dual nature as energy and mass, wave and particle. The term wavicle is often used to describe it. A few years back, I took on the moniker Heresy Man. Here is a Reader's Digest, a version of how that happened. Several years ago, the church I had been attending in San Clemente dissolved and blended into another local church. I was on the elder board at the time and actively worked with the team to ensure the blending went smoothly as possible. Without going into details, I decided at that time that the new blended church would not be a great fit for me. So I started attending another well-established church that was growing and quite popular in the area. For a month or two, I plugged in, attended Sunday services, and tried to get to know people. One Sunday, the church was having a meeting after the last service to make some corporate decisions or some such, and wanting to be involved, I stayed after to attend. To my surprise, I was turned away at the door because I was not a member. I apologized for being ignorant and asked how one became a member. I discovered that I must attend membership classes. So I signed up and sat through the explanation of how the church is governed and which verses of the Bible are the basis. After 3 or 4 weeks of training, we had our final exam. It was a series of statements, and you had to mark off whether or not you agreed with them. One of the statements basically said that if you disagreed with the pastor, you would keep it to yourself. Another said that if you would... Let me start that again. Another said that you would not teach anything to others that didn't agree with the pastor, even outside church activities on your own time. Being me, of course, I marked the do not agree boxes. Needless to say, I was called to meet with the pastor. To make a long story short, I refused to change my answers on principle. He suggested that if I didn't like the way he ran his church, I should start my own. He told me I was always welcome to continue as an attender, but I was not welcome to be a member. I intended to start going to the services wearing a scarlet letter A. That way, if I were asked what the A was for, I would say I was branded an attender. But, out of respect for my very embarrassed wife, I agreed to find another church. After my inquisition, hey, that's another I word, I decided to look up the definition of heresy. The following is extracted from dictionary.com. Heretic, noun. A professed believer who maintains religious opinions contrary to those accepted by his or her church, or rejects doctrines prescribed by that church. Roman Catholic Church, a baptized Roman Catholic who willfully and persistently rejects any article of faith. Anyone who does not conform to an established attitude, doctrine, or principle. Once I had discovered heresy had nothing to do with God, but everything to do with organized religion, I started referring to myself as heresy man. Who am I? Who are you? I think, therefore I am. Cognito ergo sum, for those who prefer the Latin. I am conscious, but the question is still, who am I? When Moses asked God his name, so he could tell the people who sent him, God said, tell them that I am sent you. Or, I will be who I will be, or I am the one who is. God replied to Moses, I am who I am, and then said, tell the Israelites, I am sent me to you. Exodus 3:14. So, that tells us who he is, but what about me, you, everyone? Command, who am I? Back in the day, before cool graphical user interfaces, GUIs, were integrated into operating systems, OSs, it was hard to tell who was logged on to a terminal. A bit of code was burned into the firmware of the computer, so when the command, who am I, was entered, the computer would provide data to let you know the name of the user the computer was responding to. Oh, if only it were that easy in life. Who am I? May never be answered in a lifetime. But if there is an equivalent to who am I in the personal lives, I would put my money on accessing it through meditation. Of the 4 words, instinct, intellect, intuition, and intention, I consider the first 2 words physical attributes and the other 2 metaphysical attributes, spiritual. Yes, I know we can argue about the semantics, but as the author, I get to choose the meaning. I have the right to write as I see fit. Explaining the terms is part of the communication process, so thank you for your understanding. But that all should become clear later. Let's move on and take a look at the 4 views of I. And that's the end of this chapter. So that's what I've got. It's a short chapter. It's about realizing that you are independent. It's about realizing that you are responsible for who you are and you're responsible for what you do anyway. And even if you give away that responsibility, I think I've said before, it's still yours. You know, when you're standing up there in front of the great white throne judgment, or Saint Peter, or whoever you get to talk to try and move on to the next level, they're not going to take that. They're not going to say, well, you know, my mom told me to do this, and you know, my pastor told me to do that. That's not going to cut it. They're going to say, yeah, but what did you do? Why did you choose this? So anyway, I just thought I'd share that. If you guys have any comments about this book so far, write them down. Let me know. And if you don't, thanks for listening. Anyway, you guys have a great day. All right? Thanks. Bye.